So these are my great-great-grandparents. This is my Tita Jalila, and she is the icon for my work. The way that she looks and holds herself just reminds me of how strong the Palestinian woman is and how resilient they are. Either I can design for the Palestinian people and the broader region, or I can keep preaching to the choir and trying to yell at people that just don't care about genocide and don't care about ethnic cleansing. This book has honestly inspired me so much. It's called The Subjective Atlas of Palestine, and just shows different elements of Palestine. There's even a page that was like garbage cans in Ramallah, I think it was. So designing under occupation is like something I've like coined recently that I do want to further develop after I graduate. Hi, my name is Laila Grace Zayed. I'm a Palestinian Christian from Ramallah Tehta, the Old City, and Birzeit. And I am a graphic and industrial designer, and I'm also a community organizer for Palestine. I'm based in the Chicago area, and I've always been a creative growing up, and I was always really interested in how we can apply innovation to Palestinian communities, or I kind of developed this like over time. So I stumbled upon industrial design. So that's what I ast my undergraduate degree in at UIC. I decided to go for my master's mostly so that I could further develop these philosophies and these thoughts that I had thought about during my last year when I was really connecting the dots between Palestine design and the broader region as well. I think like the first time I really realized like the situation that Palestine was in was when I was like 10 or 11. I remember this memory so fondly. I was in 5th grade and we had to make flags based off like where our families were from out of like construction paper. And, you know, I went to school with a bunch of white people. They're from like 5, 6, 7 different European countries and they get to pick one. But I knew I was Palestinian. I was well aware. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make the Palestinian flag. And my teacher had a bunch of books with different flags around the world so that we could reference them. I did know how the Palestinian flag looked. I just wanted to see Palestine in a book, you know, and that was really special for me as like as a kid, you know. So I remember looking through these books, no Palestine. I looked through another one, no Palestine. I looked through the last one, no Palestine. And I remember being so upset. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna use one of the classroom computers to just look it up. And, you know, that just made me feel better, I guess. And I think that was a moment where I was like, wow, like we're not even recognized by the world. And this is like my identity. This is where my family's from. And of course, Israel was in all these books. And I remember making this flag and hanging it up and having like a bit of fear that someone was gonna say something to me about it, because I knew that my identity was controversial to many, especially like, you know, this is 2010 we're talking about at this point, or 2009, something like that. So that was something that I was a little bit afraid of. So that kind of started my... As a 10-year-old? Yeah, like I'm 10.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So that was something that I had to like think about, and that like stayed with me my whole life. And I think for me, it's so normal to like have to be on guard about my identity. And I've had to do that my entire life. And I've had to know how to defend it, or, you know, make way for people's like weird comments that come with it. And because it always gets a reaction. You don't know what reaction it's gonna get, but that's not normal. And sometimes thinking like, wow, people can just go around and just be like, oh, like I'm from Germany, I'm from Italy. And like, you know, there's nothing that has to come with it. Like that is the way that we should be living. But unfortunately, we do have to be strong and on guard, and we have to be very educated on our people. Right now, I'm in my last year of my master's, and I'm focusing my thesis on Palestinian futurism. And Palestinian futurism is really based in this philosophy where we're looking at like a freer future for Palestinians, and also not giving recognition to our occupiers, whether that's the Zionists, the Israelis, the Romans, the Crusaders, so forth. A lot of times in Palestinian art and design, we give recognition to the occupiers and the colonizers. And I've done that a lot in my work, honestly. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think like a lot of my work has been discursive, meaning I'm trying to say something political through my work. Yeah. But, you know, when I include like the wall in my work. Like my tea time under apartheid piece that I did as my thesis for my undergraduate degree, I was giving recognition to Israel because I showed the wall in it. And I'm giving like a meaning of showing separation, of course. Like, I don't think it's like, a bad piece, but the wall is an icon of Israel. That is a creation of Israel. That is not a Palestinian momentum, And we show the wall in a lot of work. We show the wall when we show artwork, and that sort of thing. The wall is not ours. The wall is a symbol of Israel. And so that wouldn't be considered futurism. Or like I made like the hookah bomb last year, and that was another discursive piece, but I put the Israeli flag on it. I of course made the whole structure of like the bomb to, show like my messaging, of course. And again, nothing wrong with that, but that is also an icon of our oppressors. So Palestinian futurism focuses on Palestine alone. And like a lot of time when we talk about Palestine, we focus on 1948 as degree zero. Everything with Palestine is like either during or after 1948, but that's not true. Palestinians have thousands of years of history, and our history did not start with 1948. And when we attribute 1948 to like the beginning of our history and the beginning of our struggle as like a people, what we do is we really do give Israel a little bit of credit, honestly, for our national identity. When was Israel established? Around that time. So like Palestinian futurism focuses on our history as a whole throughout the thousands of years. It doesn't erase the things that have happened to us. We're not bypassing history. What we're doing is recognizing that we are a continuous people that did not start or end in 1948. And I think that's important to remember. So when people are saying, Palestine didn't exist, we also have to remind ourselves we existed before 1948. And we have to be better about our language. And I think a lot of people don't mean this. And it just, we always talk about the Nakba. The Nakba is not the start of our history, and I think that's important. And so a lot of my work now, I really want to shift some of my work now to be about our people and about progressing our people in this field, rather than trying to say something about us all the time, which I think can be equally powerful. But I think I've realized now, especially after like my hookah piece, which was literally about people not caring, that people still don't care, no matter how many of these pieces I make. So either I can design for the Palestinian people and the broader region, or I can keep preaching to the choir and trying to yell at people that just don't care about genocide and don't care about ethnic cleansing. But that's why this work is so important, is because we're being ethnically cleansed, our culture is being stolen, and me doing this work is an act of resistance. And I think also my community work, like I'm not just a designer, but I believe in grassroots organizing. I believe in organizing outside of a artistic or designer space. And that's why, I've helped out with protests during the years with different nonprofits. And I think that's what makes myself a little versatile, is like designers should also be part of their communities and trying to make their communities actively better. So this is like my postcard collection that I made. So this is all pictures of my family that I collected. On the back, there's like a QR code, and it kind of tells you a little bit about the photo. So it's like a cool way to learn about Palestine in that way. This is actually my grandfather getting shaved. This is like a Palestinian tradition before a groom gets married. So that's what he was doing. So these are my great-great-grandparents. This is my Tita Jalila, and she is the icon for my work. And especially because I'm named after both my grandmothers, and that's why my name is Laila Grace. I wanted to show her as my icon. And the way she stands in this photo and the way that she looks and holds herself just reminds me of how strong the Palestinian woman is and how resilient they are, and how they really represent the land itself because of all the traditions that they carry. So these are other photos of my family as well. And then like even my business card has her photo on there too. And then these are my love letters from Levant. So I made these Arabic Valentine's Day cards a while ago. And I usually sell them with like Arabic candy hearts too. So they're just really cheesy little sayings, but they're so fun for like Valentine's Day and stuff like that. So I also do believe in Palestinian joy too. Although I'm very political with my work, I also do believe in just making things that speak to us in that way. I did a Women of Palestine print series. So I featured Fatima Brunawi, I featured Rasmia Oda, Leila Khalid, and Shireen Abu Akleh. And these are just some very prominent female figures that I wanted to show and speak about in a graphic design sense. And then this project right here, this is actually a redo of my Gaza chess table. So I know that I can always make things better. And I know that I just wanted to improve and try something again. So usually all my work is like my first time doing it. And I really wanted to give it a second shot and to make it a little bit better too. Although I do love the original, don't get me wrong. But you know, the first thing is always the first try. So I just want to try this again and hopefully make more pieces similarly in the future as well. So these I cut on the CNC and I drew them on Adobe Illustrator. And then these are actually metal pieces that I put on the tabletop as well that are placed in the wood right here. So those will be in there once this is all a finished piece. Another tabletop I'm working on, this is just like a CNC Moon of Bethlehem Tatri shape. It's basically all the different villages have their own different type of tatris. So this moon drawing is specifically from Bethlehem. And the way that these tatris drawings work and these motifs work is they represent the way Palestinian women view the world and view themselves. So what tatris is really a language of Palestinian women. It's the way that they see themselves in Palestinian society. It's the way that they protect themselves against evil eye. It is the way that they see the land around them. So it is the way that we really preserve our identity, and it's extremely political in that sense. This book has honestly inspired me so much. It's called The Subjective Atlas of Palestine, and it really just shows, it's kind of like a photo archive as well, and just shows different elements of Palestine and attributes to it. There's even a page that was like garbage cans in Ramallah, I think it was, and just different magazine covers. So just things like this that kind of, when I'm not home, remind me of what home looks like and what it, and what it's like and what our culture's like. And just showing a little bit of like history, different CD covers and music collections. And also just showing like some cartoons. This is a kind of a little bit of a humorous book too. So
to show you how culture,
yellow cabs.
Yeah, how culture is kind of infused in everything.
Yeah.
And especially in Palestine, where culture is used as a form of resistance.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like it being infused.
Oh yeah. This is called Clean Ramallah.
Oh, cool.
So it's all the garbage cans in Ramallah, like a photo archive of it. It's kind of funny. And then there's also like other like hookah finishes, like parts of a hookah. I went to Palestine after I graduated from my undergrad for the first time. And I had been involved in SJP before. I was like president of SJP for 2 years prior. But being in Palestine also, I think.
And what year was this?
This was 2022. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just like recent.
This is just before everything happened. And I was there for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I think like being in Palestine also inspired me to go back to school as well, because I saw what Palestinians were doing back home to design around the occupation. So designing under occupation is like something I've like coined recently that I do want to further develop after I graduate. But it's really this way of when we design for people, we have to take their problems and experiences into account. Design is not art. Design maybe as art would function, but like, for example, like when you go out, sit outside and you're sitting on a really uncomfortable bench, the bench is like that so that you don't sit there for a long time. You know, they don't want you to like lounge around too long. So everything has been designed in a specific way. I was really inspired, for example, when I went to Ensenia, it's just a Palestinian village in the West Bank. Right. And they have issues with water because of Israel, of course. Like they're not always given water, they're not always given enough water. So they're lucky to have a stream of water in their village. And now when they make houses to combat the water shortages due to the occupation, they make houses with alternative piping that goes into the groundwater. And that is design, that they're design and engineering that they use to basically like design around occupation or design under occupation. Or when I went to Khalil, same idea, like they have an issue with settlers attacking the souks and throwing rocks and acid on the Palestinians that are simply just trying to work and survive and support their families. So they built a netting over the souks. And it's sad because it covers the sky, but that is designing under occupation. Like these are things that you wouldn't have to design for in the US where the occupation doesn't exist, or in many places of the world. I think the occupation of Palestine is so specific to that region and the problems are so specific. And there isn't really people helping them design under these struggles. The occupation is not going to end tomorrow. But what can we do to support the people so that they stay there and they stay resilient and so that they feel supported under these hardships, under the occupation? And design helps with that. Yeah. So what we really need, in addition to medical professionals, in addition to all these people that are helping on the ground, NGOs, yeah, is we also need engineers and designers to help people live in a place that has so many hardships, and they also deserve beauty too. Yeah. People that are living in, like as the other professor said, a conflict zone, which I hate saying conflict because it's not a conflict, it's a ethnic cleansing, it's an occupation, it's an apartheid, it's a genocide. It's so many words before you have to say conflict. But these people deserve beauty, they deserve grace, they deserve peace, and we can do that as designers, as we can talk to these people and we can help them create this world so that when we are free, we are prepared. I got into my artistic side when I was pretty young, and then I got into industrial design because I was looking for a good medium in between like engineering and art, and it was perfect for me. And then I realized later how much it connected with my Palestinian background, which we kind of talked about, which was great. Yeah. So, and then the photography, I enjoyed photography here and there, but my photography with the protests that happened in Chicago, that mostly came out of me just wanting to document things. I wasn't like really going to these protests thinking, let me take like the most artistic, like best photos ever. Yeah. Like I just remember looking at history books and seeing all the photos in there and thinking like, okay, people were there and they were documenting these things, and it's a way to remember our history and our struggle in different places. And so I want my photography to be that for us. I'm like, of course I want my photos to look nice, but I'm not always trying to take like the most artistic photos all the time. I want things to like that speak to our future children, that show these were the things that we did when we were fighting for our liberation. These were all the protests, these were all the events, these were all the things that we were doing. Yeah. I feel like my professors and even the rest of my cohort are very supportive of my work, and they understand it. And so I feel very loved, I feel very supported. I think my community makes me feel loved and supported as well. I'm a member of the Palestinian Assembly for Liberation too, and I got to create their shirts. I feel like I'm relied on for a lot of design work, especially graphic design in the community. So that makes me feel very happy, very supported, and I'm happy to be doing my part and to support our people in any way I can. So yeah, I mean, I did have an instance in my undergrad where one of my professors was Zionist, and I made like an archive, a photo archive at one point of Palestinian organizing at UIC. And I used a quote by Ben-Gurion, which was the former prime minister of Israel, that was, "The old will die and the young will forget." So I used that in the beginning of the archive to show that the young have not forgotten. And he was like, "Oh, why can't you talk about this without bringing up like Israel and stuff like that?" And it's like, of course, I don't always want to recognize the colonizer, but I will not bypass like what is happening, and I will not ignore Israeli crimes in Palestine. And part of my work is showing that in this field, because sometimes a lot of people like are going to avoid the Palestine conversation wherever they go. And I think it's important to organize for Palestine, especially in places where Palestine is nowhere to be seen. Yeah. And I find that especially with the design, architecture, and engineering space, you know, we need more Palestinians in these spaces, and we need for them to be very vocal about their Palestinian heritage as well. I think that there's power in numbers, honestly, and I think the more people that are not afraid really inspires others to not be afraid. Like last year, we saw during many college graduations, a lot of valedictorians gave their speech and brought up Palestine, and even got their diplomas revoked or taken away briefly. But there were many students that still did it after, and it was inspiring. So even if there's fear in these people to speak up, when you see other people do it, you're like, wow, okay, if they can do it and they have suffered the consequences and they're okay, why can't I do it too? So it's kind of one of those things. And I think that especially reading Palestinian history specifically, I think a lot of people don't read and don't read about Palestine in these movements. People sacrifice so much in these movements. They do so much. And especially like reading about the history, not hearing about it, not watching a video about it, reading about it, and these figures throughout history have really shown me like that people throughout the years have put so much on the line, and many movements for the good of the future. And their sacrifices have done so much more. And you'll never regret doing something that's right. I think that's the way I see it. It is disappointing that people don't speak up, and there's always going to be those people. I think that's something that I just have to accept as well. And even people I thought were my friends that didn't speak up, that are no longer my friends because of those reasons. I think everyone's talking about Palestine now, and it's definitely like the headline in the news, but I think this is what makes us Palestinian, is like this artistic work and this language that we speak without words, through like Diaries and through design. And my goal is to make Palestine known in this field and recognized and taken seriously. And I think, like, for example, in TV and movies, we're not always properly recognized if we're even like there in those spaces, but we are recognized through design. We are recognized through art. I'm really hoping that people see my work and they see it as something that they want in their home as well, like something they want me to create for their space, so that it feels Palestinian, so it feels authentic, so it feels like, you know, traditional, but still progress, because our society still progress, we still change, we still adapt, and that's important to recognize. We're not stagnant in time. I mean, art and design is resistance, but I will say, in addition to that, art and design is not enough. I think that's why I do so much work in a grassroots perspective, and that's why I do so much work with Palestinian Assembly for Liberation and other groups as well, is because we can make all these amazing things, and this does help us survive through turbulent times, of course, but what we also need to do is put more action into liberating our people.